This episode of Distraction is sponsored by Landmark College, offering comprehensive support for students with ADHD and other learning differences. Learn more at lcdistraction.org. Landmark College, the college of choice for students who learn differently. Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell, and welcome to the podcast Distraction. It's great to be back with you after our hiatus for the summer. I'm coming to you today from my home, my third-floor study in Arlington, Massachusetts. If you hear a rumbling outside, it's my neighbor who's mowing his lawn as summer draws to a close and we all get ready for school, with school beginning and the football season starting. As some of you know, my family and I are avid football fans. We've been season ticket holders for the Patriots for 25 years. My daughter works in the marketing department for the National Football League down on Park Avenue. We are devoted fans and have an awful lot of fun doing that. But we'd love to hear from you, and that's what we're devoting today's show to, questions. If you want to send in a question, Sarah, our wonderful producer, has asked me to suggest to you that you send in your question as a voicemail so we can put your voice on the show. Whether you send it in as an email or a text or a voicemail, I guess you couldn't do it as a text, could you? But you do it as an email or a voicemail. Send it to connect@distractionpodcast.com. That's connect@distractionpodcast.com. We really want to build up more questions, and also please send in comments, send in ideas for new shows, comments on past shows. We love hearing from you, what you'd like and what you want to hear in future shows. I'm inviting my friend Jim Anderson, professor of chemistry at Harvard and one of the world's authorities on climate change, to join us in a future show. There are things that can be done in this crisis. Jonathan Franzen just had an article in the New Yorker painting a fairly bleak picture saying not much can be done, but it's not true. It is not too late. It's true it's the 11th hour, but we can salvage this terrible, terrible crisis, but we must take strong and decisive action, and Jim will tell you exactly what needs to be done. And we continue to address the topic that I am best known for, problems with distraction, with attention deficit disorder, and the issue that I love to promote the most, namely connection, which we do hopefully through this podcast. We're up to 100,000 downloads a month now, and that's thanks to you. We hope to grow that, double that, triple that as the year goes on. And so please tell your friends about us. If you enjoy this, please tell your friends. We really don't have any marketing budget whatsoever. So it's through you all, through word of mouth, and hopefully the joy and excitement that we spread. People seem to enjoy this, which is just great. I love doing it. And Sarah, our producer, and Pat Keogh, our engineer, do such a terrific job. It's a tremendous effort, and we do build a lot of the best kind of equity, which is the equity of connection, really, the equity of reaching people and spreading ideas and information and most of all, goodwill. Spreading love, as they say, spreading love. Love is not an easy sell, and the world really needs it these days. So let's hope we can spread, if not love itself, goodwill at least. So let's get on to the questions. The first question comes to us all the way from Melbourne, Australia. And Jeremy writes that he was just diagnosed with ADHD at 40 years old. And he asks, how does a late diagnosis affect someone's ADHD journey? Well, first of all, 40 is not late. I mean, I've diagnosed people at age 70, even over 80. It's never, never, never too late. And the journey is only affected in that you sort of wish you'd come to it sooner. You still can get the same kinds of improvement. You just, some issues you just can't go back and undo. You can't go back and undo the problems you had in school. You can't go back and undo maybe the addiction you got into. You can't go back and undo the jobs you lost. You can't go back and undo the mistakes you made that you wish you hadn't made. So in that sense, the course is different because you're feeling, maybe some remorse or some anger. Why didn't I get to this sooner? But in terms of moving forward, the same bright outcome is absolutely possible. We use the same medications to treat adults as we do children, the same dose even. Stimulant medication is one of those rare medications where dosing is not related to body weight, not related to how tall you are or how much you weigh, not related to how old you are. It's related to brain receptor sites that we can't measure. And, so the same meds, the same dosing, and the same efficacy. You about 80% of people will get a positive response. 20% won't. In my own case, meds don't work for me. I don't use medication. But all the non-medication interventions that we use absolutely apply to adults. And it all starts with education. And for adults, this is often the most powerful because they suddenly get a whole new lease on life. They suddenly are able to say, oh my gosh, it's not because I'm just such a loser. It's not because I lack discipline. It's not because I'm stupid. It's not because I never could get out of my own way. It's not because I just didn't have what it takes. All those kinds of what I call moral diagnoses that people with undiagnosed ADHD just labor under, just carry around like terrible weights and just feeling just pulled down, dragged down, feeling so bad about who they are. When that is lifted off your back, when you understand that it's not that you're a bad, undisciplined, wayward person, that you have a neurological difference, that you have a difference in wiring. That's why you haven't achieved at the level you could. That's why you haven't worked up to your potential. You have what I tell children, you have a Ferrari engine for a brain, but with bicycle brakes. And until you strengthen those brakes, it's going to be hard for you to show up on time, hard for you to get things done, hard for you not to crash into walls and plow through stop signs. So it's very hard to perform at the high level you otherwise could if you can't control those brakes. The other analogy I like to use, having this condition, it's like Niagara Falls. Until you build a hydroelectric plant, it's just a lot of noise and mist. And I'm in the hydroelectric plant business. I help people build their hydroelectric plants. And when you do that, it's really quite extraordinary how productive you can become. But until you do that, you're just generating a lot of noise and mist. So age 40, great age to get diagnosed. Your work life can improve dramatically. Your personal life, whether you're married or in a relationship, that can improve dramatically. Instead of being in struggles all the time and being blamed and the other person saying, why can't you be more attentive, and why can't you follow through? Why do you always let me down and forget and overlook? You can start following through, and you can start being there, and you can start being the person that you want to be. So it's a good news diagnosis when it's done properly. When you see a doctor who knows what he or she is doing, it's a really good news diagnosis with a good prognosis. If you don't get the diagnosis, it's not good news. It's really pretty bad news. The outcomes can be pretty devastating. So you want to take it seriously, learn about it, read about it, get the information you need, and see a doctor who really knows this condition, who knows what he or she is doing. And it's a lot more than just taking a pill. First of all, the pills don't always work. And second of all, some people don't want to take medication. And third of all, if you understand this condition in its fullness and its complexity, you'll just get a lot more out of what the treatment entails. I tell people I don't treat disabilities. I help people unwrap their gifts, and the unwrapping of the gift, takes time and it takes persistence. But when you get there, oh my gosh, what a tremendous feeling it is. Well, Jeremy and others, I hope that answered your question, and I hope your ADHD journey is a fulfilling and joyful one. All right, the next question comes much closer to home from a listener in Newton, Massachusetts, right down the street from where I live in Arlington. This question is, "Hi, Ned. I have a 14-year-old with ADHD who is also struggling with depression and THC use." That's for those of you who don't know, that's the active ingredient in marijuana. "I am seeking a high school to serve his needs, as I am not sure public school will work for him. How can we best identify and investigate schools that could work for him?" Well, that's a very big question that every parent wonders about, and it's limited by your resources and your community's resources. Most people don't have unlimited resources in either direction. They don't have unlimited money. And so, private school is not always an option. In fact, not often an option. And they don't have unlimited community, where you live, unless you want to send someone far away. You're limited by what's available geographically. And so you have to look around, ask other parents, ask pediatrician. If you happen to have a good school consultant in your local school, ask what's available. And then based on your income and your own personal philosophy, what you like, see what you can do. In my own personal opinion, the best school philosophy is Montessori for someone with ADD, as long as they're willing to be a little bit more structured. People with ADD do need a little structure. So if the Montessori school is willing to bend a little bit, because their philosophy generally prohibits much structure, if they're willing to add in a little bit of structure to help the ADHD kid get going, then I think that's the best situation for kids with ADHD. As for the THC and depression, you're probably going to need to outsource that. That's not up to the school to take care of, but you will want to consider carefully the peer group, because that plays a big role. The older the child gets, the peer group becomes tremendously critical in terms of drug use. And kids who have ADHD are way, way, way more likely to develop addiction. And if not addiction, at least serious drug habit. And we're talking 5 to 10 times more likely. And most addiction begins between the ages of 13 and 23. So at age 14, your son is right in the danger zone. Most people don't realize this, but stimulant medication is one of the best ways to reduce that risk. Studies have shown that kids who take stimulant medication have a much lower rate of drug abuse than kids with ADHD who do not take stimulant medication. Most people think the opposite. They think Ritalin and Adderall are gateway drugs. No, they are not. If anything, they close the gateway. So having your child with ADHD on stimulant medication is one way to reduce the risk, serious risk of drug abuse, which is, as I said, a much elevated risk among kids who have ADHD. So in choosing a school, consider the peer group carefully, consider the philosophy of the school. You want to consider class size. Obviously, it's better, the smaller the class size, the better for kids in general, and certainly for kids with ADHD. Once again, you're limited by what schools are available to you. What schools can you afford? What schools, can your child get into? And those are not available to everyone. Not everyone can get into every school. There are things that every parent can do, however. And right at the top of my list is to make friends with the teacher. Don't go into the school with a list of demands. That's, you might want to do that because you're feeling desperate and worried, but don't go in with a list of demands. It's off-putting and it will get you off on the wrong foot. Go in with, if anything, a list of what can I do for you? Sort of, go in saying, look, I know you've got a hard job. How can I make your job easier? That's how your teacher is much more likely to want to go the extra mile for you if you show that you're willing to go the extra mile for her or him. Make friends with the school, make friends with the teacher. Once you've decided to send your kid to a school, once you've made that decision, then commit your best energy, your best effort to that school. The other approach I've just seen so many times, a year of struggle, of fighting with a school, just does not bring good results. If you really are fed up with the school, look around for another school, but don't wage war with the school unless you absolutely have to. I rarely see it bring good results. Sometimes, but rarely. So, again, to summarize, research what's available, what you can reasonably access. Consider the philosophy of the school, what makes sense to you, but make sure you take into account what your child wants. Sometimes kids want things that aren't good for them, and it's up to you to make sure they don't go in that direction. But sometimes kids want things that are good for them, and make sure you consider what they do want. Makes a big difference because buy-in on the part of a child is a huge differentiating factor in terms of what will actually work. And then, make friends with the school, make friends with the teacher, the administration, other kids, other parents. Things go so much better when you have that kind of an atmosphere. And how to identify that sort of thing? Visit the school, spend as much time there as you can, talk to other parents away from the school so they can be open and honest and real with you. Hope that makes sense. It's a big, big, big decision, tremendously important, and one that you can reevaluate every year. Well, this next email is a comment, not a question, and I'm very happy to read it. It says, Dr. Ned, welcome back. I've missed you. Well, I've missed you too. I had to stop the podcast just so I can write you and say how amazing it is, and I only heard the first 10 minutes with your interviewing your bride of 31 years. Warmly, John. Well, thank you, John. Thank you. We got a number of emails about the show with Sue and me, and so much so that I think we're going to bring Sue on regularly. She always makes people smile, and the interplay between the two of us always makes people smile. She's wonderful. I don't know what I ever did to deserve her, and how she puts up with me, but she is truly from heaven. She's an incredible woman, and I'm so glad that you appreciated that show, and we will definitely bring her back, and I'll relay to her what you had to say, and thank you. I missed you. We really missed doing this, so thank you so much, John, and please tell your friends to tune us in. We really want to grow this year and make this our best season ever, which we will do with you and your friends helping us along the way. Okay, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell. So glad to be with you again. Hoping you enjoy this fall. It's my favorite season of all the seasons, and I hope you have a wonderfully happy, zippy, crisp autumn fall. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell for Distraction. Distraction is made by Sounds Great Media. Our producer is the extremely talented Sarah Guertin. This podcast is recorded and mixed by the equally talented Pat Keogh.